evening and welcome. My name's Elizabeth Youngblood. I'm the Executive Director of Stanford Professionals in Real Estate, affectionately known as SPIRE. Welcome to the 8th Annual Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame. And for those of you paying attention, maybe you can clap. We're here tonight to celebrate two of my favorite ever SPIRE members, Susan Meaney. Susan's up here. And Chip Conley. Okay, later we're going to do the wave, and I'm going to practice which side of the room can go faster. Please go ahead and enjoy your salads. We've got a big program to get through tonight, and it's a school night, and we really want to do our best to give Susan and Chip their time, so I'm not going to take very long, but when I have a captive audience, you're sort of captive, I like to be able to talk about Stanford Professionals in Real Estate. I'm really proud of our organization. SPIRE was founded in 2009, and since that time, we've grown into the largest and most active alumni club in the history of the university. Really proud of that. We've got 2,600 members spread across the US and 22 countries. Howard Wolf is, thank you. Oh my goodness, I love you. Thank you, Fran. SPIRE has three main objectives. One is what we're doing tonight, alumni networking, and we host events all over the country, and then the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame is one of our largest events of the year. We also do student outreach, so I don't know how many of you are alums in the audience who didn't know much about real estate when you were a student, but our objective is to let students know that there is something called a real estate profession out there after school, and we do our best. We have mentor programs, we have resume books, we help students connect with alumni. That's our student outreach. And then the third piece of what we try to do is encourage Stanford to consider teaching real estate, placemaking in the built environment as a coherent curriculum. And Howard Wolf and Bob Reedy are in the audience tonight representing Stanford. We're going to put our plug in yet again. We think it would be great if Stanford would move towards research and teaching in the fields of real estate. So glad you're here tonight. This is our largest ever Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame. It's the first time we've hosted in San Francisco. We're in the DeYoung. It just feels like a new era for us. So welcome, enjoy your evening. I'm going to introduce you next to the chairman of the SPIRE Board of Directors, Wayne Brandt, flew up from Southern California. Wayne and Chip are in the same class in undergraduate, and he is a managing director at Wells Fargo.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you, Elizabeth, and it's so great to see all of you here. Thank you so much for coming. We are so pleased that you're here with us tonight at the DeYoung Museum, and on behalf of the Board of Directors, we wish to officially welcome you to our 7th Annual Hall of Fame event honoring Susan Meaney and Chip Conley. But before we get started, I have a brief apology to make. When we set this date 7 months ago, I got a call from one of my classmates who said, look, October 18th, Wayne, you know that's Stanford plays Arizona, and I don't care who you're honoring, but I'm going to be at the football game. So I apologize for the conflict. Does anybody know what the score is? I haven't gotten a recent update. Anybody? So anyway, we hope the best for our football team. Thank you so much for coming. Again, I'm Wayne Brandt. I'm chair of SPIRE. And before we get into our program, we just have several thank yous and recognitions I'd like to make. First, I'd like to thank our staff. We have a massive staff of 2, and we just added one, Diane Perro, who's made major contributions, and I'd like for her to just stand up and wave her hand and be recognized. Thank you, Diane. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize our executive director, Elizabeth Youngblood. She is the reason why you're here tonight in the DeYoung. She's the reason why we have our SRAC conference on campus, a lot of the other regional events, everything she does with the board. She does an amazing job, and I'm going to embarrass her a little bit more and ask her to come up and accept a gift on behalf of the board of directors. Would you please give a round of applause for Elizabeth Youngblood? Elizabeth?
Thanks, Wade. This was in October.
Thank you. I love Elizabeth. It makes my job very easy. I just do whatever she tells me to do, and I just try to do it as quickly as I can. So thank you, Elizabeth. Next, we have many sponsors we'd like to recognize, and if you can hold your applause, I'm going to just go through these pretty quickly. At the exclusive agency banquet level, $20,000 level, I'd like to recognize McKenna Capital, Wheelock Street Capital, and two individuals, Craig Blanchard and Mike McCaffrey, who have given so much and made this evening so possible at the exclusive level. Founding core sponsor, Alan Mackins, Fred Allen, and also at the core sponsor level, AEI Consultants, the Brando, and the Toby Philanthropies. At the pillar sponsor level, Juniper Square, Rad Urban, and Preserve West Capital. Let's give a round of applause for all of our sponsors. Thank you. Next, I want to recognize my board. We have a board of 20. We've expanded it this year. It's just a great group, but also my president, David Butler, if he's here. David's been a great partner, and we've worked very well together. But this board is very engaged, very energetic, very active, very passionate, very creative, sometimes a little too passionate, but that's Stanford. So I really appreciate all that they do. And for all the board members that are here tonight, can you stand up? I'd just like to have a round of applause for you all. All of our board members, please stand. Thank you. Okay, as Elizabeth said, tonight's it's an evening of firsts, a lot of firsts. This is the first time we've hosted this event at the DeYoung's, first time we've hosted it in the city. We've had record attendance. It's the first time that we've had kind of a broad sponsor base that's supported to make this evening possible. But beyond all the numbers and all that, it's kind of gets the essence of what is the Hall of Fame. And at its core, the Hall of Fame is really an opportunity for us to honor the significant contributions and accomplishments of our honorees, both professionally and personally. And they share two things. They share a lot of passion for real estate and a lot of passion for our industry. And tonight's historic because it's they share the core values of integrity and helping others and leadership and a lot of humility. We also have some other honorees in the room, which I'd like to recognize. We have two. We have Fred Allen and Bob Burke. Raise your hands, guys. And these gentlemen, there are no gentlemen more humble than these individuals. So our honorees tonight, look, it's a pretty rigorous nominating process. It's probably one of the most important things that our board does. And tonight it is historic. We're bringing two inductees into the Hall of Fame. One is our first real estate technologist. And the next is the first time that we'll be inducting into the Stanford Hall of Fame our first woman inductee. And I'm very proud of that. So thank you. So just quickly as we wrap up, just on a personal note, I want to thank Susan. I want to thank Chip for all of your time and devotion to Stanford and everything to make this evening possible. It is so meaningful to us. But also on a personal note, I want to recognize Chip. I'm very fortunate tonight. I have a lot of classmates that are here tonight, and when we were, hopefully not disrupting too much over there, but when we were sophomores, Chip was a senior, and Chip was at that time just always flying at a higher level. And when he was a senior, he was teaching courses at the Stanford Business School in commercial real estate, and kind of the rest of us were just trying to figure out how to graduate and get a job. So, Chip was always ahead, and it's so great to have you here, Chip, and we just so admire all your many, many accomplishments. So thank you for being here. Enjoy the good food. Enjoy the good company. During dinner, we're going to honor Susan, and then during dessert, we're going to honor Chip. So, again, thank you for being here. Good evening, and go Stanford tonight. Hopefully we do well on the football field. Thank you.
Hello again. I hope you're enjoying your meal. We're going to get started with celebrating Susan Meaney, one of our honorees of the evening. So you may have missed it when I said it, but this is our 8th annual version of the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame. So there are 14 prior inductees. And some of my most favorite nights are when the inductees' children get to participate. And so tonight we're really lucky to have Susan Meaney's daughter, Bridget Meaney, speak on Susan's behalf. She is a second-year student at the Stanford Graduate School of Business, and she's kind of a rock star like her mom. So I welcome Bridget Meaney to the stage.
Hello. I'm a little nervous, but I feel comforted by the fact that Curtis Feeney told me it's genetic. So I'm thrilled to be in a room full of people who are here to celebrate my amazing mom. As I look around the room, it's wonderful to see so many familiar faces. I am so grateful that many of my mom's current and former colleagues have become both hers and our family's lifelong friends. What really stuck out to me when I thought about this evening was how naturally my mom has integrated her personal and professional life in a really authentic way. She's not someone who leaves work at work and home at home, which I'm especially grateful for since I was a very needy child. My brother Tommy has a picture hanging in his room of him playing soccer as a 4-year-old with a few other boys and my mom playing right in the mix in her work blazer, skirt, and sneakers. She hadn't bothered changing into the perfect soccer mom outfit. She had come straight from work and just got to playing. When Tommy and I were little, my mom was just our great, fun mom. The mom that played every game, read books with us at night, and made the most amazing cookies. Cookies I bragged about so much in the schoolyard that the teacher asked my mom for the recipe at back-to-school night, only to be told they were Toll House break and bakes. As little kids, we didn't realize or recognize just how much work went on behind the scenes for the mom that seemed to do it all. She might have made it look effortless to us kids back then, but it was anything but. My mom is the hardest worker I know, and she's taught me by example that sometimes you just got to put in the work. When my mom first started McKenna, it was about the same time I started at a new, more academically challenging high school. We were both completely overwhelmed and didn't always feel like we belonged. I think this is okay to share after a decade of incredible real estate portfolio performance at McKenna. Though I'm a little embarrassed to equate starting a company with starting 9th grade, my mom always made me feel like it was a perfectly adequate comparison. My mom always believed we could both do well, we just needed to put in the work. So we started going to the office together to do our homework on Sundays, and somehow this became the part of the week I look forward to most. Our times together in the office were an especially formative part of my adolescence. I got to see the things that my mom excelled at didn't necessarily always come naturally. She had grit and determination and a will to learn. More importantly, I experienced there, and in so many other instances, how much time she spent building other people up and helping them grow. My mom has spent countless hours helping me study and ruthlessly editing essays and applications, and even more time talking me through important life decisions, both big and small. I know she has also done the same for many of you. And this highlights a very small part of who my mom is. It's impossible for me to encapsulate how compassionate, values-driven, humble, goofy, quirky, and fun my mom is in just a few minutes. While it's all her individual traits that have made her deserving of this honor, and much more in my opinion, tonight represents more than just her individual career. She is the first woman to be inducted into the SPIRE Hall of Fame, and I hope that when young women see my mom on the wall, they not only think that Susan Meaney is a total real estate badass, but that they can become one too. Thank you.
When I was growing up, we lived across the street from my aunt and uncle and my cousins, and we were always running back and forth to each other's houses. It was almost like one house. And my uncle was a developer. And And I thought what he did was kind of cool, but I didn't think it was quite the thing I wanted. I went to Stanford for my undergraduate education, never been to California, and my brother had spent some time at Stanford on a research project and came back and told me how great it was. So I decided to apply. I honestly thought the chances that I get into Stanford were pretty darn low. Then it was a letter in the mailbox and screaming my head off when I opened it up. I got on the plane and flew to San Francisco, had no idea where I was, my first time ever setting foot in California. Stanford really opened the world to me. After Stanford, I worked in consulting for a while and I worked in advertising, and neither of them totally suited me. I decided to do what you do when you don't know what else to do, and I went back to business school.
Susan and I met in business school in Hanover at the Tuck School. I was a first year, she was a second year. There was a little bit of status involved in dating a second year.
It's kind of a funny story. I came back to Hanover in the fall, but I was a little cranky about, I don't know if I really want to be back here. It was so fun, and it's back at school. And my two roommates literally threw the Facebook at me, that was really a Facebook back then, and said, find a nice first year that you like. I said, I'm gonna go meet this guy, John Meaney.
She picked me out of the Facebook, and that was basically where it all started 33 years ago. We were pretty young when we married, and we've just been figuring it out. That sense of partnership has been kind of, I'd say, a pretty common thread through the whole thing, and we figured a lot of stuff out as we went along. We've really been equal partners.
There was never any competition or question about whose career was more important. So we knew right from the beginning that we were gonna make this work together.
So I met Susan for the first time when she was working with the Stanford Real Estate Group. She was fairly early in her career. She was straightforward, she was informative, really kind of what you see is what you get. In her interactions with people, I think I would describe her as being very genuine. My job as a member of the investment committee was to know that we were in good hands. I felt we were in very good hands.
I worked on a lot of deals when I was younger, a lot of big deals as an analyst. But my first really big deal, I think, was in 1994, and it was the Genencore building on Page Mill Road that Curtis Feeney and I did together while we were at Stanford. Curtis and I wrote a strategic plan for the Stanford Research Park, and the core principle of it was that there were many sites that had been ground leased in the 50s and 60s, and some of them were kind of underutilized, and the research park needed to be invigorated, and also we thought we could generate more income for Stanford that way. Our first building to do that with was the Genencore site, and believe it or not, it was an old Kodak film processing plant. It smelled like chemicals, there were these big vats. So we tore it down, we built the Genencore building, and we went on to build about 1 million square feet in the research park together. It was the Feeney Meaney team, no relation. And it was really one of the most enjoyable parts of my career.
Susan was the point person, and she came in at zero experience in doing any of that and did an incredibly successful job of putting all those pieces together, completing the building with a long-term lease that the university got the value out of and made the budget on time. She's one of those people that makes it look easy. She has a naturally good business sense, and somehow in her experience in life, she developed a good judgment to know what are the right issues to worry about, and she's always working on the right things. Stanford did very well on her watch.
Well, a number of years have passed, of course, since I first met Susan. At a later point, I joined the investment committee of the Hewlett Foundation, and who should be there but Susan?
I met Susan 14 years ago when I first joined the Hewlett Foundation. She was then responsible for all our natural resources and real estate investments. And it was great to see sort of a vibrant woman working in such male-dominated fields. She came in with a lot of really good real estate skills and very good detail and structuring skills. And over the years, she's been able to blend more macroeconomic and more strategic thoughts into the way she thinks about investments, which I think just shows a maturity and a normal progression in how someone invests. Her ability to be really honest with managers, and the fact that she's just seen as such a trustworthy human being. It's about having good judgment in our business. That's not something that you can really teach somebody. It's something that comes over the course of 20 to 30 years of experience. One of the reasons that I think Susan has been as successful, and I know I have been, is we have this relationship, leading women in the Valley, the ability to support each other. We all face the challenges of how do we balance our kids, our husbands, our travel. All of our jobs demand a huge amount of travel. She has been able to balance it because she has John. We don't do this by ourselves.
She works hard. Long nights at the office, weekends at the office. Raising two kids when both of us are working, we work together, we solve the problems together, but she really took the heaviest load at home.
When I started at McKenna, I knew that my travel and the commitment that I needed to make to work was going to grow. We sat down and we talked about how we were going to handle that. And to John's credit, he at that point stepped away from his work. He became the 80 to 90% parent.
In some ways, my mom is the same at home and at work. In some ways, she's totally different. She can transition really quickly from being really serious and focusing on work, and as soon as she comes home, she's crawling on the floor with the dog, talking in dog voices.
We've been really lucky to have both parents who've been flexible in the roles that they take at home. And I've learned a lot about how important it is to both support a partner, but also always to put your family first. I didn't realize how successful my mom was at work until I was much older. She just loves what she does. She really likes the people she works with, and she likes the work, and she likes that real estate is tangible.
She always says it's like Monopoly.
Yeah.
I was first introduced to Susan probably about 13 years ago. We were starting to think about the idea of our business, McKenna Capital, and part of that was trying to locate and identify people who might be great initial partners of ours to get the business started. So I was introduced to Susan by one of her colleagues at the time, Kelly Meldrum, a friend and colleague of hers at the Hewlett Foundation, who said I had to meet Susan and she'd be the perfect person for us. And it was a no-brainer almost right away. Her character, her personality, you can't teach that. I think she was probably born with that. She's done a remarkable job of being that sincere, thoughtful, amazing person on the personal front and on the professional front.
When I think about McKenna, it really has become a second family to me, being there from the first day. I don't think I ever could have imagined the strength and durability of our partnership over a decade plus. It has been a great journey to have been part of a startup organization, going through those times together when we were traveling all over the place and living through trips to China and power bars and having long dinners in Abu Dhabi. There's just a real bond that exists between us, and it's pretty special.
So I met Susan in 2006. She was brought in to run the real estate portfolio at McKenna, and I was going to be her direct report. I'll never forget the first day I started working with her, the CEO at the time, Mike McCaffrey, pulled me aside and said, "Ashley, Susan's going to be your toughest and best boss you could ever have." And he was right. She was definitely my biggest critic when I was kind of performing under my potential. She was my biggest support when I was completely underwater. She was the biggest role model as I saw her kind of navigate the nuances and the intricacies of being a partner of a growing business. She was managing a multi-billion-dollar real estate portfolio across the world and raising two children, and then still finding time to be an incredible mentor and ultimately best friend of mine. She has an incredible ability to read people and connect with people. And how that really translated itself is that she could walk into a meeting And within the meeting, she could call someone on their bullshit. She could negotiate for favorable terms for herself. She could deliver really, really tough, challenging news and somehow walk away with respect and admiration from that person. And I don't think I've seen anyone be able to do it like Susan. I think mentorship is crucial, and particularly kind of in finance and in our industry, because there's not a lot of women to look to in finance. Mentorship for me was her showing me the path of what was attainable. What she was doing was she was showing how you can prioritize work and family, and you didn't have to compromise, and there really was a way to have it all. We would travel 24 hours to our destination. We'd be in the middle of India. We'd just gotten off a plane. We're exhausted. And I would see her be on the phone for 4 hours at a time with her children, either dealing with a school project or just talking them through, something that they were going through. And she never was tired, and she never let them believe kind of what was happening on the other side, and then vice versa. We would then turn around and walk into a meeting in the Middle East where, frankly, women are not typically even let in the room, and she would walk in and command the entire room. And so that combination of her ability to do those things was so important to me and really provided an example that I can do it.
Susan has done a brilliant job in such an outstanding way that she has been able to avoid whatever barriers might exist in our industry, and she's come out and risen to the top. She and her people have managed, as I understand, over $3 billion in real estate investments. They have $18 billion under management. This is a major undertaking with a lot of money involved. So she has a huge responsibility for managing other people's assets. I really credit SPIRE for bringing a woman to the point of receiving this honor, which is absolutely deserved based on every possible basis.
When I heard Susan was getting honored for this, in some ways I was like, it's about time, because I truly believe what she does in this industry is incredibly unique.
I can't think of a finer individual who is more deserving of this incredible honor. She loves her profession in the industry that she's worked in for 3 decades.
Susan is one of our most prominent and one of the graduates that we're most proud of from Tuck Business School. Susan is as deserving of this award as anyone I know connected to Stanford, connected to the real estate community.
She has been a trailblazer. I mean, she was, I'm sure, born running. I'm very proud.
As a woman, I think there were times when I felt like I had to work a little bit harder and maybe prove myself a little bit more to show everybody that I should have a seat at the table. Without my colleagues and my friends and my family, I could never have done what I've done. I've had so much support, and I'm so grateful to them. When I think about leaving a legacy to my children, I think about it as something that we've all built together. They've grown up in an environment where men and women are equally valued. My mother always made me feel like I could do anything. And I grew up with 2 brothers, and both my parents made me feel like I could and should do anything that they could do. And they always supported me to follow my interests and to take risks and to move forward. And I now realize what a gift that is.
Hi, I'm Curtis Feeney. I'm going to introduce our honoree tonight. I was told to wait till this finishes, but it would take some of my time that I need, so I'm going to look at that while I get started. I do want to tell you the Susan B. Meaney SPIRE-sponsored docudrama will be shown at Sundance as a premiere in January. I'm hoping for a supporting actor nomination. And I had one requirement for doing this, and that was Howard Wolf could not speak because he's so glib, and I hate following the guy. And then they put Bridget up, and I'm like screwed. So, I was not Susan's first choice for this, and I know this because she called this morning and asked what I was doing, and I said, "Well, I have my daughter's wedding tonight, but if you need me, I'd be happy to be here." Interestingly, if you Google Susan Meaney, which, you should do that, there's 550,000 search results. So I immediately Googled Curtis Feeney, 144,000. But I Googled Mike McCaffrey, 400,000. So I Googled Dave Burke, 39 million. So I had to do some research. None of them were about our Dave Burke. But Lady Gaga, I'm going to get to Susan later, but Lady Gaga has 269 million. Quite a few of which were about our David Burke. So, Susan is amazing at everything she does. She does a lot. She's a great athlete. She has run marathons. She's top of her class in all business activities. Her family is better than yours. She runs marathons. By the way, somehow she got a hold of my script and told me to cut that part out. She runs marathons. She saves baby seals while running marathons. And in short, she deserved this award long ago, which I'll get to in a minute. Now, Susan wrote that part out and told me to read it, so that part's done. Check. Let me check that. But she's very humble. And I know she's humble because when we talked about her winning this award, she immediately said, "I don't really deserve this award this year. I deserved it the year Bob Burke got it." And a couple of times before that, quite frankly, quite a few times before that. So she is very, very humble. And one thing that we all know, Susan, she actually does not brag about herself. Only her kids. Sorry, John. But she does brag about the kids. In the real estate industry, she is literally known far and wide. If you call her on her cell phone and get the international ring, you can guess it's going to be Middle East, India, Africa, South America, Canada, China. You just don't know. She's all over the world. She cuts a very wide swath, and the airlines love her. When she was working at Stanford, she was on the cutting edge of workforce trends. She came to me and said, I don't want to come in on Fridays. I want to work from home on Fridays. And being oblivious to glaringly obvious trends in the workforce, I said, well, there's no way. You're too important. You're a leader. You can't do that. And about 18 months later, I was asking around, where's Susan? I got to talk to her about the big deal. And they said, oh, it's Friday. She hasn't come in on Friday for a year. She's definitely a self-starter. Everywhere she goes, she brings an enviable amount of energy, competence, and joy. When she is working with you, it's just more fun. And you know the result is going to be A+. While at Stanford Management Company, she directly created net value to the university of over $500 million. This is not a lazy person. This is not a lazy person. The Tuck guy didn't know about that. After running all of the real estate at the Hewlett Foundation, one of the largest foundations in the world, she became one of the co-founders of McKenna Capital, one of the most successful fund of funds in the world. And she is never shy about telling Mike and Dave what she thought and where they were wrong. She speaks truth to power. She speaks right to wrong. She often speaks wrong to right. Sometimes she'll speak wrong to the person standing next to her, but always with confidence and a smile. I'm way over what Elizabeth told me I could do, so. But with Susan, stubbornness is a feature, not a bug. Who hasn't seen her stand up at an LP meeting and demand that maybe they should think about some creative ideas that they weren't pursuing, like selling all the portfolio and giving her back her money, but again, totally
getting everyone to listen and lean in. So in addition to that, she effortlessly guided her son and daughter through all the things you saw in the video, and John also, so good job. She puts 150% into everything she does. She's just not that disciplined. She can't not do that. She commands attention everywhere she walks into a room because she's very loud. Everybody listens to what Susan has to say because you can't get a word in edgewise. So she's a hard worker, she's smart, she's kind, she's personable, she's funny, she's a great listener, she's brave, she's a great friend and confidant, she's driven, a great parent, great family member. But for those of you who know her well, you're probably needing some other adjectives, so I'll help you out. She's anxious, she's insecure, but just enough. She's uptight, stubborn, and overbearing, so let me summarize and I'll get off the stage. I know I wasn't her first choice. Still upon my own petard, I did hoist. I'll read what you told me, Susan, I swore. And yes, you should have won this award before. Humble, oh, so humble. She doesn't brag. In the international airlines, don't give her jet lag. She made Stanford money, which made my day, and she did it without ever working Friday. Hewlett and McKenna, she set them straight and true, and when she meets you, she'll straighten you up too. I guess we should add to this list of hers, it's worth mentioning her family is better than yours. She's 150% all in, she's loud and she's strong. We could go on all night, but it would take too long. And from Michigan to Stanford to McKenna to all of her families and friends, she always brings the magic. Susan, let's welcome Susan Meaney and congratulate her.
Wow. I don't know what to say. That's amazing. Thank you so much for those amazing introductions and just for your kind words. And this is just overwhelming and wonderful, so thank you. It's really heartwarming to see so many friends and familiar faces, and of course my family. I'd like to thank SPIRE for this honor, and I'm especially happy to share this evening with Chip Conley. Chip, since you and I graduated all those many years ago, it has been so much fun to watch all the innovative and really cool things you've done. Oh, there you are. Like starting Joie de Vie at age 26. That's pretty amazing. Thanks also to the people at SPIRE, especially Elizabeth Youngblood and Diane Perro. You, and I don't know where you are, but you have both worked tirelessly and patiently to make this evening so wonderful, and I appreciate it. And I need to give a special shout out to Craig Blanchard. Craig, there you are. You have been tireless in helping organize this evening, and you're a great partner and a great friend, and I really appreciate it. I have been so fortunate throughout my life. Fortunate that my parents supported my dream to head west when most people in 1978 Detroit thought sending a daughter to Stanford was a little crazy. Why doesn't she just go down the street to Michigan, they said. Why send her all the way out there? When I made my first trip down Palm Drive, it was intimidating and wonderful all at the same time. I couldn't believe that this would be my new home. And I know a lot of you who, the first time you stepped foot on campus, probably felt the same way. Early lessons learned were that overalls were not a cool party outfit, as they were in Michigan, and that taking poli-sci 35 as a freshman just because it looked interesting to me when it was an upper-level course was a bad idea when I got my first midterm grade back and it was a D. I'm happy to report that I traded the overalls for some jeans and t-shirts, a little more normal, and somehow passed that class despite that discouraging start. What I didn't know then was that Stanford would change my life, that it would stretch my mind, but more importantly, that it would connect me to truly inspirational people and open doors that I never even knew existed. I am so grateful for the serendipity that led me here, for the head start that Stanford gave me, and for the gift of seeing Stanford provide the same magical experience and education for my children. Sometimes younger people getting started ask me what's been most impactful for me in my life and my career. And I always tell them, if I could give you one piece of advice, it would be this: attach yourself to great people. People who challenge you, who embrace you, and who make you laugh. Because I am 1,000% certain that I'm happier and more successful because of my relationships with many of the people in this room than any deed that I have done or path that I have chosen. When I look around this room, I feel incredibly grateful. I have had so much support in my professional and my personal life. From my days at the Stanford Management Company, where I was lucky enough to work with a terrific group of people led by Lori Hoagland, whose quiet brilliance and unwavering moral compass kept us doing good while doing well. And then Curtis, what can I say? Thanks for your example of optimism, your humor, and for being just such a great friend and mentor for more than 25 years. When I left Stanford, Lori didn't learn the first time, he hired me again. And there I learned from some of the best. Anna Marshall and Kelly Meldrum, my partners, were the best examples of how to take bold positions, how to lead as women, and how to do it all with grace. And the best part is, they're two of my best friends today. And then there's McKenna, where Mike McCaffrey and Dave Burke propelled us to think outside the box and stay on our front foot. They set the bar high and made sure we took our work seriously, but not ourselves. Mike, I knew when we had that last meeting at the Starbucks, and you told me there'd be no assholes at our firm, that it was the place for me. And you've delivered. Throughout my career, I have also been lucky enough to be surrounded by incredible women, both on and off the field. They continually awe me with their investment instincts and sound judgment, and help me navigate life as close friends and role models. I'm grateful for this community of women who have been sounding boards, cheerleaders, and travel buddies, and that means you, Ashley. Women who I could be equally comfortable with discussing potential investments, trading shopping tips, or just sharing family news and personal challenges. These women are my tribe and my heroes. No question that my sisters lifted me up, but so did my brothers. I have had the good grace to work with men who never failed to give me a boost and genuinely wanted to level the playing field when it was even harder than it is today. I see many of you here this evening. You made me believe that anything was possible, even when sometimes I didn't, and you propelled me forward. You're true partners and great friends. And then my family. I have been beyond blessed with my family. John, when I picked you out of the Facebook more than 30 years ago, I had no idea how well I had chosen. I just thought you were cute. And I just thank you for your endless love, your support, your endless patience, and for being my best friend. And Bridget and Tommy, you're the world to me. You energize me, you keep me grounded, you amaze me every day. You make me believe in the future, and you make me believe all that is good and possible. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. This has been an incredibly awesome evening, and I so appreciate your support, your generosity, and your friendship. And go Stanford.
Congratulations to the Meaney family. So enjoy. We're going to serve dessert and coffee, and then we get to induct Chip Conley at last. So just wait a few minutes. Enjoy your dessert. Thanks. So we're lucky again tonight to have a member of Chip's family introduce him. And we're even luckier in the sense that it's Chip's father. So Steve Conley, he was the class of 1959 from Stanford University. His wife, his college sweetheart, Fran, was the class in 1960. So it's a Stanford family through and through. It's a really particularly special night for the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame. I'm so happy to welcome up Steve Conley, who's going to share, I think, the results of the Stanford football game. So enjoy.
I wish these were the results. Right now, there's about 5 minutes left, and Stanford's leading 20-13. And so we'll just hope that over here, everybody needs a grandkid. My grandson Oliver has gotten the games on both Fran and my iPhones, so we can watch the game being played. And we all need grandchildren to do that for us. Tonight, I'd like to thank all of you for being here, and particularly would like to thank SPIRE and for putting on such a fine event. Susan, congratulations to you. My gosh, it's about time we start recognizing the women in this world. And you young girls, I've got a couple of younger girls over here. Anyway, take her experience as the fact that you too can achieve if you put your mind to it. Okay, on to Chip now. I'm a little nervous about this because I understand that there's a Fidel table out here that they're going to start throwing things at me in just a minute. But before I do that, I do want to introduce the family that's here with us. My wife, Fran, Chip's mother. And we will be celebrating our 60th wedding anniversary in the not-too-distant future. And his sister, Ann, who is really his business confidant and business manager, and her partner, Natalie, and their children, Oliver and Lily. Now, I've got a talk here. I've got a lot of things I wrote out, but frankly, they're a little boring if I read them to you. So I'll just try to paraphrase the best I can. Chip, we had a lot of questions. We have had a lot of questions from people over the time about, well, did you really know what Chip was going to be, how he was going to be when he was a young kid and such? And the answer is really no. We were looking at things, considering things like homework and carpools and whatever else all parents do with their teenage kids, and younger. And so I don't really think that we did recognize it, but in hindsight, yeah, we can recognize perseverance. These were 3, 4, or 5 words that Fran put in here that are awfully good. Perseverance, creativity, ingenuity, perseverance, and a joy of life. We did see all of those, and we could look back and we see that. He did do some things as a youth that were very evident of his leadership and the creativity that he has. He was the pitcher on his Little League baseball team. He went through the rigors of earning an Eagle Scout Award and doing a lot of backpacking with me. And he was student body president of his 3,000 student high school, Long Beach Poly, and also captain of the league-winning, league champion water polo team. So those are some of his accomplishments before getting to Stanford. While at Stanford, he was very fortunate that he had been able to take some AP or get credit for AP classes, which gave him a little bit of extra time, and he was able to stop out a couple of quarters and work in the real estate, commercial real estate brokerage business as a salesman. When he came back from that, he and another entrepreneurial friend of his started a class. in real estate, Introduction to Real Estate. It was oversubscribed. It was the first time Stanford had had any kind of a real estate class at the undergraduate level, and it was very successful. So that was sort of a start of getting into the move. He went directly into business school, and between his first and second year of business school, was fortunate enough to work for Stanford Real Estate Hall of Famer Buzz McCoy. And later on, when he graduated, he chose to learn more about the overall breadth of the real estate business and went to work for Bill Poland here in San Francisco, and was responsible for developing the former Masonic Temple on 25 Van Ness. I got to remember the address. Thank you. And so, but that didn't last too long, because he got the itch to own his own business. And so in owning his own business, he found the Phoenix, which as at that time was called the Caravan Lodge. And frankly, when he bought that, his mom and I just trembled. That was an awful place. By the hour rental, in the Tenderloin. Oh God. You know. So what's he do? He gets a bunch of his buddies, and some of you Fidels were probably among those group, to come in and paint it. You know, not professional painters. No, can't afford that. We have our buddies come in and paint it. Well, it looked a little bit like that too. Today it's doing very, very well, and one of the things that we both, Fran and I, are both very, very proud about is Chip's commitment to the community and commitment to doing things for people. He started 26 years ago something called the Tenderloin Pool Toss. Some of you may have been at that. That pool toss raises money for education and after-school programs for Tenderloin youth. These are the kids who are living in generally one-parent families in the Tenderloin. And it's done a wonderful thing. Don Falk, who's head of the TNDC, just sent me an email, and he said that the program they had it last week, and I wasn't able to go to it. The year before that, Chip and Nan and I were all thrown in the pool. But this year we weren't able to make it, but they cleared $400,000 this year and have contributed overall. The TNDC, or the Tenderloin Pool Toss, has raised $5 million for Tenderloin youth. Now, Chip is supposedly retired. I mean, he keeps on retiring. After he sold Joataviv, he retired for a short time, and then now that he's left Airbnb, he retired for a little bit of time. But now he's starting something else called the Modern Elder Academy. And you know what? Well, Fran and I are not betting per people, but if we were, we'd be betting that he's going to make it. I'll bet every one of you would too. With that, I'd like to introduce a video. Self-directed, and that was really important.
He's very creative.
Yeah.
Chip always has had the ability to be ahead of the curve.
He's a great synthesizer of talent and ideas.
Chip has a penetrating style of listening. You can sense the curiosity.
Chip is loyal, extremely creative, and adventurous.
If you walk into his house after noticing the beautiful art, the second thing you notice is all the books. There are more books than you can count.
Authenticity is at the heart of what he goes to do. Chip has the ability to see around the corner and tell you what's going to happen next. You're just seeing every day a better version of the Chip from 2 decades ago.
As a 12-year-old, he was really an impresario. He lived on a street called Burling Hall Drive, and so he created the Burling Hall Cafe.
I think they appreciated the fact that I was entrepreneurial and enterprising, and that I was doing things to help, gather the local kids. I'm not sure they liked having a restaurant in their dining room. That didn't last more than about 3 days.
I presume he thought people from the neighborhood would come and eat. That never happened, but it was another one of his ideas.
And he had the Burling Hall News, and then he had the Burling Hall Olympics.
And he did it from scratch. He made the medals, got each venue together. And we had kids coming from blocks away to be in our Olympics.
Everyone just kind of jumped on board. He has that ability to get people kind of excited about an idea. Definitely competitive. All of the Conleys are competitive with each other and just in general.
He started a little water polo career, became quite good at it.
In junior high school and high school, he was a leader and president of a student body at high school.
He was our first child, so we assumed that all children were like this.
Both of my parents went to Stanford, and so I grew up, very much, I was a big Jim Plunkett fan. Oh gosh, I think it was Stanford, Ohio State, and Stanford, Michigan Rose Bowl games in the early 1970s. I applied to Stanford and just 2 other schools, and it was Stanford or sort of nowhere, and I was lucky enough to get in. The thing I appreciated about Stanford from the very first time I was there is the spaciousness of the campus, and the sense that it just felt like a place where you could think big thoughts. As an undergrad, I studied economics, and then I was lucky enough to get accepted straight into Stanford Business School. I had taken some Stanford Business School classes as an undergrad, and I'd actually even started a little business, a real estate consulting firm. So I graduated from Stanford Business School and went to work for Bill Poland, a maverick real estate developer, and I enjoyed it, but I was particularly intrigued by hotels.
I did think that he would be successful, but he was taking a direction that was unique, or at least unique in this marketplace. We took on that 25 Van Ness project. Rents had collapsed in other parts of the city. He had to go out and call on brokerage firms all over, completely lease the building. It's always been a wonderful relationship because of his almost zen ability to deal with people, including myself.
I asked Bill if we could potentially create a hotel division, and because we were actually looking at potentially creating a hotel in the Showplace Square area of San Francisco. And Bill said, no, if we're gonna do a hotel, we'll just do that one, nothing else after that. And that's when I started thinking, well, maybe I could just start my own company and become a hotelier. When I said I wanted to start my own company and start a hotel company, they looked at me like, what are you talking about? You're like in your mid-20s and you haven't had any hotel experience. And then the hotel I wanted to buy was this no-tell motel in the Tenderloin. It's like, okay.
He purchased a gritty property and saw a personality there and a business that could grow on the personality hotel.
There are many times in my career when the conventional wisdom has said, I'm wrong when I have a new idea.
And this was at a time when nobody knew what a boutique hotel or a personality hotel meant. But he took a gritty property and turned it into a rock star and pioneered and molded a whole new industry as well as a whole new company.
When I started my company and called it Joie de Vivre, I pretty much said, okay, I'm going to be a 26-year-old out gay CEO. And what came as a result of that is I just could show up at work with just who I was. Being in a position where I give other people the welcome mat to be themselves.
Knowing to do something is not enough. You need the opportunity. And Chip definitely gave me the opportunity. And he was the best school for me. I mean, the first hotel, we worked closely, and then he saw that it was a success. And slowly, there was lots of trust in me, and the results were amazing.
There is actually an image of Chip and Orrin that I will never forget when we started the Commodore on a 2-page management agreement and decided to renovate the property. And every credit card that Chip and Orrin had was maxed, and they were sitting in my office pulling out cards to see where they could add more money so that we could finish the project. And it was really the first bigger hotel of Joie de Vivre, and it was a lot of work, but an incredible amount of fun to turn this really dumpy hotel into a success story.
In the hotel industry, what he did, I mean, you would think that he's a hoteler, he will be very loyal and towards his guests, but he was much more loyal to his employees, knowing that working with them, they will be able to transfer this feeling to his guests. That's extremely unique, and I think that's one of the reasons he became so successful.
When you create something very specific, like the Phoenix Hotel, a lot of people don't get the Phoenix Hotel, and that's totally fine. What we need is that really small niche that just loves it with great passion. I saw other companies beginning to emulate us. In the mid-90s, we had an executive team, 50% female, 40% gay lesbian, so super progressive. And I recognized that I was part of making change.
I believe in Joie de Vivre, we truly had incredible guest satisfaction, loyal following, but to this day, there's so many of us that worked there for all these years. We're still deeply connected with one another.
Joie de Vivre was getting its name out there. Chip was getting his name out there, really great press. The first really big challenge we faced at Joie de Vivre was the dot-com bust. People just stopped traveling, and the Bay Area especially was hit so hard. Chip immediately just stopped taking a salary. The rest of the executives saw that. We all took 10% pay cuts. But something Chip started doing at that time was these quarterly investor letters that would talk about the market. So we started sending these letters out, and they were well received. And then he shows up in the office one day with a t-shirt that he had printed. And it said, "I bought a hotel in San Francisco and all I got was this damn t-shirt." And he said, "We are sending this to all of our investors with our next corporate letter." And a couple days after we sent them out, he started getting phone calls and emails. And uniformly, it was so appreciated by these owners because they appreciated the communication and knowing what was going on. But they knew what was going on. They knew what was happening with the economy. They knew we weren't trying to, poorly manage their hotels. What they really appreciated was the humor and the kind of appropriate levity that was brought into it. And a few years later, when the economy got better, we purchased and concepted another dozen hotels, and those same investors are the ones that invested.
We grew from 6 hotels to 42 properties, 19 restaurants, 5 spas, $250 million in annual revenues over the course of the 18 years I was with the company.
He had somehow won the right to develop on this unbelievable site in San Francisco. This was Chip's first ground-up development. He poured himself into that property. It opened to tremendous success and was the hotel in San Francisco that had the highest occupancy. Stanford undergrad, he's got his MBA from Stanford, he has it all. He understands real estate, so when we look at buying something, it was very simple to trust him because he knew the real estate, he knew the numbers. Skills that Chip is amazing at. His creativity is like nothing you've ever seen.
When he sold his company, the hotel management company, that was going to be a time for him to rest. And then Airbnb came along, needed some help, and he jumped right in with both feet.
When I first joined Airbnb, I thought I was just going to help them create a hospitality company. But a week into it, I realized, oh my God, I don't know a damn thing about tech. I got some great tutelage from my father on this. I remember we were going for a hike. He just said, can you turn this fear into curiosity? Can you turn this fear into curiosity?
He took on the opportunity that was presented to him with Airbnb at a time when a lot of the hotel industry and hospitality industry was very intimidated and confused by what home sharing was. And most of the population didn't even know what it meant.
Actually, Chip is the reason that I am with the Airbnb team. Chip reached out to me when Airbnb realized that they really needed to have a better relationship with building owners, landlords, and homeowner associations around the world. All of the underpinnings of his business expertise and his depth in the hospitality segment, you get a pretty wicked combo, right? Like, here's a person who loves people, is interested in hospitality, and has become an expert in the world about this, and then has the emotional depth to really care about something.
My naivete which I was scared about showing, once I actually sort of sunk into it, allowed me to become even more valuable at Airbnb because of my beginner's mind. You know, I didn't need to fake it. I can tell people I don't understand anything around tech. I am 52 years old and I've never worked in a tech company before. I obviously have something of value that I'm going to be giving you, but at times I am going to be the innocent one in the room.
Chip is one of the most positive individuals I've ever met, even when there's a lot of adversity around him. And that, I think, has moved him and his teams through periods of time where they could have easily stopped.
He just has this inner need to move forward, to learn, to create. A couple years ago when he left being an employee at Airbnb, he's still an advisor there, but he left to write his book and he bought a house in Mexico and he talked about it like almost a semi-retirement. So I'm gonna write my book, but I'm also gonna learn to surf and I'm gonna take some time off. And all of us who know him well kind of smiled and winked and said, yeah, right.
The common thread with Chip that I've seen is he obviously has gotten a lot wiser, but his passion, his curiosity, his ability to, his drive, that has stayed with him throughout. And I think Modern Elder Academy it's really a place where when you've hit a certain point in your midlife, you don't feel maybe as relevant as you have been. It's a place where you can go for reconnecting with yourself.
It relates to my most recent book, Wisdom at Work, The Making of a Modern Elder. It's very clear there's a need for us to create a place for people to reimagine themselves in midlife, especially as we're gonna live longer.
He's tapped into this, taking the wellness resort and the experiential travel to another level. I think he terms it transformational travel. And there's a real growing need and hunger in the travel marketplace for that.
You know, just as with boutique hotels and with Airbnb, I'm trying something new. So yeah, it's another form of real estate too. So here I am doing my real estate thing again.
So I want to congratulate Chip on this terrific award, one that's well-deserved.
Stanford has always been a big component of Chip's life. Many friends there that he has nurtured over the years, and it's always been an alma mater and a school that he's proud of.
I really admire the humility and the courage Chip brings to his business world and his willingness to share that, the evolution, the ups and downs with so many of us in the business world.
He really has a combination of creativity, perseverance, and a push to achieve that is very, very unique.
So it's late and you're tired, but I bet I'm more tired than you because I have an 8-month-old at home and I haven't stayed up this late in 8 months. So this will be quick. First of all, I just want to say every shot in that video, he's in bright colors, his Baja style, and tonight, the first time in 10 years, he shows up in a suit, and I'm in fuchsia for the contemporary Muslim fashion function here. So I was counting on my buddy Chip to show up in Baja threads, but he showed up in his Stanford threads. My name is Nadia Aladdin, and I'm a friend of Chip Conley's, and I am over the moon to be here tonight. On Wednesday, September 19th, 2018, I received the following message from Ann Conley. I have an interesting chip opportunity for you. Give me a call when you can. At first, I thought he started another company. And then I thought, well, maybe something happened at Burning Man. I've been reading about all these dangerous things that happened at Burning Man. I've been telling him to get more insurance and get off that board, and he just never listens to me. And then I'm like, maybe he bailed on the Baja thing and he moved to Bali. And so now I get to go to Bali. Or maybe Airbnb needs a new CFO, and he thought I would be a great fit. Or he bought a basketball team. How the hell are we going to finance that? I literally had no idea what his next step might or could be. When my mind stopped racing, I finally connected with her, and she said, will you introduce Chip at the Stanford Professionals in Real Estate dinner? And I was so relieved to find out that it was a simple introduction. After agreeing to this, I thought, there's no simple way to introduce Chip. Every day for the next 3 weeks, and I mean even since I landed in San Francisco yesterday, I was having panic attacks trying to figure out how to package his 6-foot spirit and 52 hotels into a 5-minute speech. I guess one could say I was experiencing one of his emotional equations, anxiety equals uncertainty times powerlessness. Yeah, I dug up all the books and read them all over again, and I watched both the TED Talks. Me and 3.5 million other people. Chip is one of the most grounded human beings on the planet. With all his worldly success, he's resilient, authentic, personable, collaborative, ambitious, humble, and superhuman. He may kill me for saying all this, but I've never seen a CEO less consumed with money or his ego than Chip. Whether he's on the cover of a magazine or giving generously to help out Esalen, Burning Man, Glide, Frameline, Stanford, or supporting Illuminate the Arts. By the way, when he helped Illuminate the Arts, put the lights on the Bay Bridge, he told me the story. We were sitting in the battalion. I was like, well, who's going to care about the lights on the bridge? I mean, what is sort of weird idea? And Chip's like, well, I think it's a great idea. And every time I'm in San Francisco and I sit at dinner and I see the lights on the Bay Bridge, I think, I can't believe I told him that it wasn't a great idea. So I'm telling you now, it was a great idea. He gives selflessly to everyone and everything he believes in, not to mention his passion to mentor and support LGBTQ youth. And this guy knows how to party. If you've ever been to one of his birthday parties, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you're not on the list, you need to do everything you can to get on that list. Tonight, Chip is being honored for his real estate prowess by Stanford, which makes his Stanford alum parents, Steve and Fran, and sister Kathy, very happy. And a graduate of Cal is holding out hope for Chip's Cal in Real Estate Award, but I'm sure she's happy too. And she's the one who made me do this, so I am going to call her out. In every way, Chip has broken all the standards of success since the tender age of 26, and even before, based on what I just saw in the video. He created a values-driven boutique hotel company, Joie de Vie, in 1987, and decades before it was in vogue. And through his unique approach to leadership, he's able to see beyond short-term profits and inspire the people around him to see bigger and better things. And now in his 50s, while most of his peers are getting Botox, nobody in the room, I know. I'm from LA, it's only happening there. He's becoming an intern and a mentor at Airbnb, all while he's learning to surf in Baja, writing a book, and giving another TED Talk. In case you missed it, his most recent TED Talk, What Boomers Can Learn from Millennials at Work and Vice Versa, went live on Friday. Within the first 48 hours, he had more than 600,000 views. Throughout our 10 years of friendship, he's always served as my guru. He mastered the balance of living in both the spiritual and material world like no one I've ever met, and it's the reason I asked him to officiate my wedding in July. And to be honest, we were the parents of newborns. Chip wanted conference calls at 7 a.m. to review what we were going to talk about. We were like, Chip, just get us married. We don't even, just do it. He's like, you showed up without your makeup on. And I'm like, I have a newborn, just marry us. And so, but if he would have said no, I didn't have a backup plan. He was my only plan for getting married. So you were my plan, honey. Most business people choose their net worth statement over their life, but not Chip. He's always had a focus on meaningful personal and business relationships, and that is his genius. Chip's greatness lies in his understanding of people, how they work, and what matters to them. One of my favorite quotes of his is, "We're all human. It's the most important, neglected fact in business." The business world could learn a lot from Chip's wisdom at work and beyond. And that is why he is a New York Times bestselling author, voted the most innovative CEO by the San Francisco Times, a Pioneer Award winner, the former head of strategy at Airbnb, the winner of the Glide Cecil Williams Legacy Award, the founder of the Chip Conley Foundation, and more importantly, a brother, a father, a son, a friend, a disruptor, a modern elder, a hotelier, sage, social alchemist, undergrad and MBA from Stanford, and a chocolate chip cookie lover. Don't go to a meeting without chocolate chip cookies for Chip. Please join me in a warm welcome to Stanford's newest Real Estate Hall of Fame inductee and my dear friend, Chip Conley.
Wow. I am a totally early to bed person as well, so I'm getting you out of here quick. I don't know what you say after all that. First of all, Susie Blake. Susie Blake. She is Susie Blake. She may be Susan Meaney to all you, but to me, she's Susie Blake. Susie Blake, we are in this Hall of Fame thing, and did you know the last song they played before Elizabeth came back up on stage was "Forever Young"? Truly. Maybe that's what, I don't know, getting a Hall of Fame award at age, you're 58. 50, and I'm 58 later this month. What's that? 38, okay. So, and for the people who are serving alcohol, no more alcohol for that fight out table. They have threatened to streak. So I know some of you don't know what streaking is, but you really don't want to see it from a bunch of 50-year-olds. Some other fight outs over there too. Thank you for all the fies. Thank you for all the joie de vivre people here. Love you guys. Thank you to my family, the extended family, so many people, my Airbnb family. And a handful of Modern Elder Academy, both teachers and students who've have been alums. Long story short is this. We're going to do a sing-along. Truly. We're going to do a sing-along. Are these guys back here ready for it? Okay. Go. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Oh. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in the beauty wood. A neighborly day for a beauty. Could you be mine? Could you be mine? Cut. All right, that's it for the Mr. Rogers. But let me say, who knew we were having Mr. Rogers tonight? 50th anniversary of Mr. Rogers on TV. So 5 days ago, I was flying home from Miami. So I'm like on the 30th day of my book tour right now. And flying home, in fact, I was in Long Beach this morning, Mom and Dad. Back at home, I got 3 hours of sleep last night. But 5 days ago, I was flying home from Miami, and I was supposed to write this speech. And instead, I decided to watch a movie, and I watched the bio documentary of Mr. Rogers, which is entitled, "Won't You Be My Neighbor?" So it influences my thinking a little bit about real estate. Won't you be my neighbor? In order to be a neighbor, you have to be next door to someone. So let me just say quickly, and then I want to say a few thank yous, and then we're ready for whatever the next thing is after me, but hopefully it's bedtime. So the thing that matters to me about the real estate business is that if we do our job well, we make a better neighborhood, and we create better neighbors. And back in the early days, yes, at the Phoenix, in the Tenderloin, the celebrity pool toss, 26 years now of that. Carlene Holloman, who's not here with us tonight, and I appreciate that Ingrid and Jane and Mike and Linda and a lot of other people are. Carlene when she got tossed in the pool last week. She was a senior VP with the company for $20,000. So, but the reason we do that is because we want to be a good neighbor. And to me, that's what the real estate business is about. It's about trying to be a good neighbor. And so with that first hotel in a neighborhood that needed good neighbors, where we really needed to help invest back into the community, we learned from that, and for every single one of our 52 boutique hotels, we figured out how to take a nonprofit, these guys know this, a nonprofit that we would actually support, and then actually have our guests contribute to that nonprofit, and we even required some of our general managers were actually held accountable for how much money they gave away each year in kind and in cash to these nonprofits, because we wanted to be a good neighbor. So with that, and I just want to say just a quick shout out to Anne and to Oren, who are sitting right here. Anne, my sister, Oren, my partner in so many ways in life, and head of design. They've been through so many of my different eras, and I really appreciate that. Anne literally used to work back at that Phoenix hotel behind the front desk a long time ago. But you know, it wasn't just about giving to the neighbors, it was also connecting the neighborhood and the people of the town with the people coming to visit. We created a program called the Golden Gate Greeter Program. You guys remember that? And it was a way where we actually we had people coming to San Francisco, and we would connect them with people in the local community who had similar tastes and interests to them, so that local could take them out and show them around town, because that was the neighborly thing to do. That was being a good neighbor, is to sort of give people the opportunity to connect with locals. We also renamed our front desk clerks. What were they called? Hosts, exactly. So we called it 32 years ago, we started calling our front desk clerks at our hotels hosts. So for those of you who think like, okay, well, that was a huge departure going from boutique hotels to Airbnb, not as much of one, because we had hosts a long time before Airbnb did. And the idea of living like a local, the idea of being a good neighbor, is something that's been, I think, ingrained in me by my parents, absolutely. And it was against all odds, especially for you landlords in the crowd. It's like, Airbnb a good neighbor? I don't know about that. Sort of a disruptor, I think. But one of the things we've tried to do, and the variety of things we've done around our open homes program, is to help use these homes with over 5 million homes around the world today on the Airbnb platform, help them open up when there is a disaster, or when there's a person who is needing a Make-A-Wish opportunity to stay somewhere for free or for very cheap, or someone on a low income who's actually getting medical treatments, or refugee resettlements, or people who are trying to actually get out of homelessness. So the idea of opening homes is part of what Airbnb was always all about. And then there's being the neighbor in Baja and the Modern Elder Academy that we've created. And whether it's actually helping recycling, the first recycling center in our area of Todos Santos and Pescadero, or it's actually helping fund a bilingual school with young people so they can learn both Spanish and English and have both the gringos as well as the locals actually going to school together. Again, it's about learning how to be a good neighbor, because that's what we do, hopefully do, in the real estate business. So I want to finish up by saying, someone asked me tonight, how did you know that you were done with the hotel business? And there's a lot of ways I could answer that, but the easiest way to answer it at a SPIRE event is the following. My last hotel for Joie de Vivre before I moved on, and Gary Beasley, thank you Gary, became the CEO, was creating a hotel in downtown Palo Alto, the Epiphany, which is now called the Nobu Epiphany because Larry Ellison bought it from us for a hell of a lot of money, and made it a Nobu Epiphany. But 52 boutique hotels into it, having been brought up here by my parents to come to Stanford and being in such awe of the farm from childhood, knowing that my last hotel was actually going to be in downtown Palo Alto, was like, the fat lady singing in my career, or at least in my boutique hotel career. So a few thank yous, and then I'm going to sum up with a little bit more Mr. Rogers. No singing, I promise. So, Elizabeth and Diane and everyone else on the SPIRE team. Wayne, you're the first person who's ever called me a technologist. For those in the Airbnb crowd, they're like, really? Chip's a technologist? I don't think Chip even knows what technology means. I'm still learning. And by the way, for those of you, you're going to see books. There's some Wisdom at Work books right here and right here. Those are for you. Take them with you. They're for free for anybody who wants to take one. But yes, I've learned to become a technologist. But the thing that I want to just say to the SPIRE team is thank you. This is such an honor. Such an honor to share it with Susan, because we knew each other really well, relatively well in college. We both knew Chris Bonbright, who's my co-teacher of the Introduction to Real Estate class. And Dave Dacus. Where are you, Dave Dacus? Yeah, 36 years ago, he was a student in our class, and now he's a real estate developer. What do you say? So I just want to say thanks to the SPIRE team and to the board of directors. This is such an honor. It really is. I want to just say thank you to everybody for staying here. When I heard I was going second, and it's some of you are driving back to the peninsula, etc. I was like, okay, well, the Susie team's going to start gravitating out the door, but you're still there in the back. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of my friends who've come from all over to be here tonight. There are so many of you here. I mean, I was shocked, especially Fidels from many different years. Yeah, thank you. And the Joie de Vivre team, you're still in my heart. You always will be. So it's such an honor to be here and to get this honor, but I'm going to quote Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, for those of you who didn't know, was very popular at commencement speeches. He gave a lot of them. And here's a quote from him for one of his speeches. It's not the honors and the prizes and the fancy outsides of life which ultimately nourish our souls. It's knowing that we can be trusted, that we never have to fear the truth, that the bedrock of our very being is good stuff. That's what makes our growing humanity the most glorious enterprise on earth. So Mr. Rogers was a rather spiritual guy. For me, real estate has been very good for me, no doubt about that. But it's partly because I've tried my best to be a good neighbor, just like Mr. Rogers. It seems in the politically and culturally divisive world that we live in today, we could use a little bit more of that good neighborly kind of mindset. If we treated people online like we do our neighbor next door, we'd live in a more civil and friendly world, wouldn't we? Yes, thank you. Robert Frost long ago wrote something about good fences make good neighbors. Now, he actually was doing that when he told someone he wanted their fence to come down. That's the backstory. So good fences supposedly make good neighbors, but I actually think good hearts make good neighbors. And there are a lot of good hearts in this room, a lot of people I've shared my heart with, and I feel so honored that you're my neighbor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having good hearts. We're going to close it up quickly per Chip's requests. If you would like a book of Chip's, please grab one on your way out. You're welcome. Everybody's welcome to take a centerpiece with you. You have to fight each other for one of the centerpieces. And most importantly, if you guys don't mind, I really want to thank, because tonight was organized on the back of one of my team members named Diane Perro. I don't know where Diane is, but I really appreciate it. There she is. Thank you, Diane. You rocked it. And if you wouldn't mind, your name tags are expensive. Please drop them on your way out at the tables. Thank you so much for coming. I hope to see you next year. Enjoy.